afternoon, Ben. It gives me such pleasure to welcome you here this afternoon. By way of introduction, this is Ben Bradshaw MP for Exeter, and I just want to thank you because in 2014 you were at the Exeter Respect Festival and the Fawcett Society were kindly displaying some of our t-shirts and you put one on. And that was like a champion moment for 50/50 because you were the first MP to actually wear our t-shirt, and I'm kind of eternally grateful to you for that because it got the steamroller rolling, and after that many other MPs supported us in that kind of way and in many other ways, and indeed many other people, as you can see. So thank you. But I'd like to ask, when did you first hear about 50/50 Parliament? Had you heard of us before you saw our t-shirt?
I think so, because I'm not the kind of politician who's just going to put on any old t-shirt if somebody asks me, because that can be quite dangerous. So I think I had some idea about what it was about. But from memory, the Fawcett Society people who were there confirmed to me what it was about, and I'm rather surprised I was the first MP to put one on, to be honest, because that's probably just a matter of total chance, because I didn't have any problems at all in doing so, because it's obviously a very just cause. And I think at the time, it may have been shortly before that, we were one of the first, if not the first, local authorities in the country in Exeter whose ruling group had achieved or exceeded gender parity. So for me it was something that was not just for the country, but it was also something for my local community and my local elected authority.
Yeah, well look, thanks for that. And absolutely, 50/50 is here to inspire women up and down the country to stand for elected office at a local and national level. Because we want women to have equal seats and equal say and rightful representation. And I think it was Moira who was with the Fawcett Society, yes. And she was working hard in Exeter for that. So let's try and encourage women to stand then. What do you like about your job? Why should women be involving themselves more in politics and taking the plunge?
Well, I'm sure a lot of people, in spite of what's going on in Gaza and elsewhere, have been watching some of the proceedings of the COVID inquiry. We had some very, very important testimony in the last week of how a macho culture meant that decisions were taken in that inquiry that completely ignored the needs of women and children in particular, prioritising the reopening of sports events, prioritising the reopening of pubs over schools, and so on. So there you have a very good example of why it is so important that not just the Parliament that we have in this country, but our government represents the population as a whole, because it's only by doing that that it can make decisions that reflect the interests of the population as a whole.
Yeah, well, I couldn't agree more. Representation shapes policy, absolutely, and it's all become so very clear. But I do remember I set this up 10 years ago, and the policy making just didn't seem to reflect women's needs, and Parliament felt like an all-male rugby club, and everything that's happened since just seems to confirm that. What do you think we should be saying to women, and why do you think initiatives like our Ask Her to Stand campaign and Ask Her to Stand Day are so important?
I think because a lot of women, and not just women, but I think women in particular, with all of the responsibilities that they still have in their lives, working lives, family lives, often think that politics is just something that is nasty. It's an extra burden that they can't face, even having a go at. But if you look at the difference that great women in our politics have made over recent years and over the last few decades, figures like Barbara Castle, Harriet Harman, who have really changed and improved the lives not just of women, but policies that support the family. There's no more important thing that you can do as a woman who wants to see women's interests furthered in this country than being part of that decision-making process. So I would really appeal to women not to rule it out, to speak to your local representatives. If you're a member of a political party, to speak to the people who run the women's networks in your political party, just to find out whether you think it might be for you, because certainly in the Labour Party there is a lot of support there for people. There's a lot of encouragement, a lot of training offered, and I just think that all too often a lot of women who'd be great politicians and great local MPs just think it's not for them, when actually it is for them and we need them.
Mm-hmm. And what do you like about being an MP? What gets you out of bed in the morning and wanting to walk into Westminster?
Well, I mean, there are lots of things. Obviously, I mean, I'm politically motivated, so I hate what's happening to the country in very many ways, and that motivates me to get up and work towards the change in government. But also at constituency level, there's nothing more heartening and uplifting than when a constituent comes up to you in the street and says, oh, you helped get my daughter her house, or you help my gran get her benefits that she'd been denied. So there are hard bits, and you have to put yourself out there. You have to grow a thick skin, particularly in the modern social media world. But there's also huge affirmation and satisfaction from the work you can do in your constituency, even if it seems everything else in the country and the world is going pear-shaped. So you can find satisfaction in this job however you choose to do it, and I think that is. I certainly don't wish I'd done anything else, and I have no regrets, and I've always felt it a huge privilege to serve the community. And you develop it's like a relationship you develop with your constituents. You can't know them all individually, but they know you, and they feel that you're theirs, and that's quite a nice feeling.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Apparently, there's sort of evidence that women need to be asked repeatedly, to stand for elected office. And that's why, we've launched Ask Her to Stand, and we're a charity now, which is fantastic. And if women click sign up to stand on our website, we have a kind of a friendly network of support here to help them take the next step and point them, as you rightly say, to all the resources that the parties and indeed other organisations offer to help them carry on. So we've got over 3,000 women now who've signed up to stand via 50/50. We've come a long way since that day in 2014. How important do you think allyship is to a cause like ours? I mean, I'm really delighted that it was a man that wore the T-shirt, and that you're here to support us today.
I think allyship is really important in all areas of emancipation and striving towards equality. I mean, I was the first openly gay MP who was selected and elected as openly gay, and I remember back in 1997, in a very different age, where we just had Section 28, we had a moral panic around gay people that was being fomented by some politicians who should have known better, and some of the media, that having allyship from heterosexual married mothers in Parliament was the most valuable allyship that we could possibly have, because there's always a danger when it's you making the case for something, in this case gay people arguing for gay equality, that you're dismissed as arguing for yourself or for your own self-interest. Whereas if you have a figure, thinking of Anne Keane here, who pioneered the Equal Age of Consent bill, who was a heterosexual mother who led that charge, it was much, much more effective because it blunted the potential attacks from the likes of the Daily Mail and others. So having allyship is really important, and it never stops being important. It shouldn't just be down to the group themselves to make the case for justice. We should all be in the forefront of campaigning for equality, for women, for ethnic minorities, for LGBT people, And that is a responsibility of all of us. And I think it's a responsibility particularly of those who aren't one of those minorities.
Well, look, thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, we all want to work towards building a better democracy. And given that women are the majority in life, why are they still a minority in Parliament? I find it infuriating.
There's also a responsibility here for the political parties, because I don't think the Labour Party would ever have achieved gender parity in Parliament if we hadn't had a policy of all women shortlists. That is reserving some constituencies for only women candidates to stand. It's good to see that the Lib Dems have now achieved parity as well after the recent by-elections. But I still don't understand why the SNP and the Conservatives have not adopted a similar policy, because I don't think they will ever reach gender parity without one.
Mm-hmm. No, well, it's very interesting what's happened in the Lib Dems, because in 2015 they didn't have any women in Parliament, and absolutely now, in fact, the majority of their parliamentary party is made up of women. Yeah. But they did take real action with their campaign for gender balance to inculcate a different culture. And you know, it's definitely improved things. So, I mean, looking forward, what do you think are the next steps really in getting gender equality of representation, gender balance, a 50-50 Parliament? How soon do you think it might happen? You know, at the current rate, with only 12 extra women getting elected in 2019, it will take till 2060. You know, I'll be dead and my kids will be old. I mean, it's got to happen sooner than that, hasn't it? What are the next steps to take to ensure that it does happen sooner?
Well, we've already talked about the role that the parties can play themselves in helping encourage women and having systems that mean more women get selected for winnable seats. I haven't done the calculations about selections for candidates for the next election, but it's perfectly possible, for example, that if Labour were to win, to be party political for a moment, and to win with the big majority, that you could see a big increase in women's representation in Parliament. Whether that would take Parliament to parity or not, I don't know. I haven't done the sums. Maybe that's something that you could do, or get somebody to do on your behalf. But I think we also need a government that is going to do more when it comes to how Parliament works. I think we did a lot in between 97 and 2010 to make Parliament a more, I mean, a terrible word, kind of family friendly, just a more modern and civilized place to work in terms of the hours, the support for parents with children and so forth. But it still feels in many ways like an old men's club. And I think there are things that we can do in the way that Parliament works and our procedures and our culture that would make it more amenable and friendly to women. It's changed a lot since I first arrived 26 years ago, but there's a lot more work to be done on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I completely agree. I think the Mother of Parliaments needs modernising. And yes, we're definitely going to be shining a light on selections in the lead up to the general election. We've already started working on the data. In fact, Chamber UK have been incredibly helpful with that. So really, I can't thank you enough. I'm very sorry that you're going to be standing down. I think you've made a massive contribution for your constituents. You've made a massive contribution to this campaign. And thank you very much indeed for being here today and for supporting our Ask Her to Stand campaign.
Well, thank you. And thank you for those kind words. All I really feel I've done is worn a T-shirt and spoken about it. But hey, if that makes a difference, I'm very happy about that.
It sure does. Thanks.